Hey everyone, welcome to the program WRSA Radio. I am your host G1. As always, I hope you're having a good week. Busy one for me as we close out the year. I have some vacation coming up, so I'm looking forward to that very much. Always good to spend time with family and friends this time of the year. And before we get into the meat of the show, I want to say a couple of things first. First off, keep in mind that last point very clearly. With everything going on in the world right now, spending time with those you love and those who love you is some of the most valuable things you can be doing. I think we get so tied around the axle of trying to see the future and prepare for it that we often miss living in the present. The world as we know it could come crashing down starting tomorrow. And if I knew that was going to happen with 100% certainty, do you think that I would want to be spending today training or prepping? Well, maybe, but I can tell you I would rather spend it with my friends and family because we can only train and prep so much. We'll never get back the time that we miss with our people. And arguably that's just as important as running another 50 rounds through your rifle. So make sure that you keep that in mind. Make sure that you take the time to be with your people this holiday, the Christmas and New Year's, because you're not ever going to get that time back. And the other thing I want to touch on is distractions. There's a very good post over on NC Renegade that David put up, and I would like you to go read that. The link is over on the main WRSA page. It's about consolidating your loyalties. It's very good stuff. I agree with it. It's fantastic. But something that's mentioned in there is that you should be aware of people trying to distract you and pull you away from the important things as we go forward. Well, last week, someone kind of hinted that I was guilty of that because I was talking about movies and things and not, screaming hellfire and brimstone at you every week. I wasn't a flamethrower. I wasn't fired up. Guys, that's not what this show is about, first off, okay? I never claimed to be that. In fact, I said that very, very early, like episode 2, I'm calm and controlled and as stoic as I can be when it comes to serious things. I'm not ever going to come on this show and yell at you and work up a lather like a Baptist preacher, okay? If you want that, go watch Alex Jones. He's far better at that than I could ever be. And perhaps my anger and frustration with things, doesn't come across very well across the videos or just in the audio because I don't show my face on the videos. But that's a choice I made to avoid having to expose you to yet another version of that template. That's a standard template for doing things on political videos or podcasts, and I just decided not to follow that. I think you get enough of that. I choose to talk about films and books and art and such because they're important. They are vectors in this conflict. I've often spoken of this as being a full spectrum information war, and it is. The main avenue of access of that is media. It's films and TV and YouTube and books and comics and just on and on and on, okay? I think that these things are important because you need to see the symbolism and the messaging that's in them. I think it's important to compare and contrast and educate yourself on these things. I think it's important to amplify and support the people who are creating the message and content that pushes our side of the fight. Traditional messages, traditional figures, traditional archetypes. They need to be shown and displayed in a positive fashion, and we need to spread that message as much as possible to counter the narrative. That's how we fight right now. We should be exposing our youth to these trad ideas and messages as much as possible to deprogram them and provide that example counter to the mainstream. So this is important stuff. And if you don't get that and see that, then perhaps, you're best directed at other things. I'm not going to tell you what to do. This is just what we're doing right now, okay? I'm not in any way attempting to distract you. As I said, this is one of the battle spaces that you still have a lot of maneuver room in. You still have a lot of impact here that's far beyond your effort and your investment. At least I think so, but you can decide that on your own. Now, with all that said, I'm going to get into the show today. And from the title, you can tell we're going to be talking about another movie. We're going to be talking about the Godzilla movie. And the reason we're going to talk about it is because of all the things I just said, and also because it's Christmas time. And I'm being lazy, and I like Godzilla movies and Japanese cinema in general. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I went to see the movie over this past weekend, and it was fantastic. I recommend it, even if you're not fond of foreign movies or Japanese movies or whatnot, because it does have subtitles, but they're not difficult to follow with the action or anything like that. It's very, very well done. I know that puts some people off, but I want you to give this one a go, because I think you'll be refreshed to see what this movie brings to the table, bottom line. And you'll be purchasing a ticket and supporting a movie that runs completely counter to the Hollywood narrative. Right out of the gate, this movie is a celebration of masculinity and everything traditional male. And that alone should be worthy of your dollar. This movie is doing great at the box office, and it's sending the message that, contrary to what some of the people in Hollywood are putting out there, that people haven't given up on movies and theaters. They've just given up on bad movies with political theory shoehorned into every second. Poor writing and crap characters. That's what they've given up on. This film has none of that. It is very well done, special effects and CGI. It's not this overstimulating, washed out, super high speed, blurry action. It's none of that. The bucket of crap that we've been given for the last 10 years or so from Hollywood. It's none of that. There is one sequence where there's kind of a blur put in, but it's not like that stuff that we've seen from Hollywood. It's done for a very specific reason. It's not the vertigo-inducing action or flow to cover up flaws in the movie. The characters are very well done. They're very well developed, and it manages to do this with tight, well-crafted dialogue and exposition that wastes nothing. And moreover, all of the characters have an arc. There's not a token toss-in character that has no real purpose or impact on the story or plot, except to put some kind of political checkbox in there. There's none of that. Everyone is there for a reason and adds value to the story. Perhaps the most impressive point of this film is that the female character is supportive of the primary male lead. She's not trying to undermine his purpose or usurp his role or insult his masculinity. In fact, she seeks him out to help her care for an orphan child and build a traditional family. I know, right? I mean, when was the last time you saw a female in a Western film play that kind of role? I can't recall one off the top of my head. It's been a very long time. So it's very positive, very well done, and very traditional. So go see it. Now, I've given you my overall review. I will warn you that I might give some spoilers here going forward, because we're going to talk about more of the symbolism and the messaging in the film. So fair warning, I won't reveal anything about everything about the story, but just in case you don't want to know about it, I wanted to say something here. So anyway, there's something very interesting about this movie that I want to get into, because I found it a bit eye-opening. And maybe it's just my view of it, but I'm going off the history of the entire Godzilla franchise. And this movie it's kind of a throwback to the original, but with a little bit of a twist on it. It even has some specific scenes from the first movie that were done here with kind of modern improvements. So that, it was very nice. But let me focus on the story aspect. The origin of Godzilla, well, it's said that Godzilla was a creature that had been twisted and mutated by atomic bomb testing in the Pacific, and that he represented, man in conflict with nature. And Godzilla was seen as kind of a balance between nature and humanity. Across 37 films, he's portrayed as both a hero as well as a villain in different movies, depending on, the plot of the specific film. But deeper down, it was obvious that Godzilla really represented the existential threat to Japan. That looming monster that is the West, or the outside, or the other. And Japan was in conflict with itself to process and understand the national shame of losing the war, and Godzilla and the giant kaiju monsters in general were film representation of that struggle and conflict, very much the way that alien invasion in the United States was the main sci-fi film topic, because the aliens represented communism. That's how that was what Japan was dealing with when this character hit the screen for the first time. And this is again played out in this film, but I think it's done so in a much more direct way, more than I've seen in previous films. The main character is a failed kamikaze pilot. He is literally a coward. He doubles down on it when he has a chance very early in the movie to wound or possibly kill a younger, smaller Godzilla on a remote Pacific island. But he cowers in fear, and he does nothing while his fellow soldiers are killed. But he comes home to Tokyo to find his home destroyed, his parents dead, and everything he knew is gone. This is all takes place in this film right after the war. So he represents the collective shame of Japan after that defeat that they faced. And over the course of the film, he struggles with his shame and bringing himself back to some semblance of a normal life. And eventually, though, he faces a now fully grown Godzilla that is truly a monster. Okay, Godzilla is a terrifying, destructive beast with the most epic beam weapon breath of any of the previous films. This is atomic bomb level of destruction when he sets it off. And in this film, we see in detail the path of destruction that he reaps on the city and its people. It is truly horrifying to imagine something like that in real life. The main character finally gets the opportunity to face this fear and shame and correct his past when a group of citizens, on their own, by the way, formulate a plan to destroy the monster. There's some very heavy commentary on the Japanese government that frames this act by these citizens. They are former Navy personnel, and they're led by a destroyer captain into this fight. And this is the celebration of masculinity I was speaking of. This is men who faced war in their most recent past, once again deciding to risk everything to defend their homes and families. They have nothing but a gambler's chance against this creature, but they do it anyway. And it's spelled out in really no uncertain terms to the viewer what that's going to mean if they fail. And I won't spoil the ending for you, but let's just say that they resolve this threat that is presented by Godzilla, and they win at least a temporary victory. The main character completes his arc, and as they say in the film, his war is finally over. And that, I think, is the critical point for me that I want to zero in on, no pun intended there, by the way. these films they're massively popular in Japan, okay? I don't think that we appreciate just how important that Godzilla is to Japanese culture and national identity. These films are very much a reflection on Japanese popular sentiment and zeitgeist. Japanese culture is a slow burning thing. It's a balance between the ancient traditional and the state of the art modern. It's done in the most aesthetically pleasing way possible. It sounds very odd to say, but to me this film is speaking to the people of Japan and telling them that the national shame of the war is over. It sounds odd that it would take this long for them to finally close that book on their history, but I think that is exactly what they're doing here. I think it's saying that the traditional culture of Japan has fought and won against the outside threat of the West, and that now is a time for rebirth and to move into the future. Perhaps this is signaling a new movement to rebuild Japan into a Pacific power as a counter to China and others. I don't know. Go see the film and tell me what you think about it. I do know that we in the West are not the only people who craft a narrative through media. This is done all over the world. This film is very popular in the U.S. right now because it's so well done and so counter to the mainstream, Hollywood garbage that it's just amazing. But its message is not meant for us. It's meant for the people of Japan. So perhaps I'm reading more into it through a heavy political filter, and really it's just a way to tell Japanese people to settle down and have babies. I don't know, but I don't think that's the case. I believe here that they are really pushing or at least programming or putting out a message that says, yes, we can rise finally into a new future. I don't know, like I said. Now next week, I hope to have another interview show for you. I'm working things out with Carl Dahl to do another talk on his upcoming book and kind of goings on in general. So I'm looking forward to that. I will try to get into the things that have been popping up today and yesterday about possible cyber attack in the near future. So that was something I had thought about including in the show today, but I really wanted to talk about this film and what I thought it meant. So I didn't want, and I kind of wanted more to develop about that story. So we had a little bit more information. But anyway, stand by for that. I think that talk will be really good. That show will be really good. But that is all I have time for this week. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab and the Mothership, and I will see you on the next episode.